All right, and we are live. So welcome to Table Talk. I'm your host, Raina, and today I have two lovely guests. I have Danielle and Kasey.
Hey.
How y'all doing today?
Feeling good.
Good. We've actually just been chatting for the last 5 minutes, and I figure might as well just go live at this point because I feel like we're chatting about some interesting stuff. So what have y'all been playing lately? I know Kasey just asked that question.
So I've been playing Too Many Bones. And we were just talking about how this might be dethroning viticulture for my top spot. And the guilt is real with that. And I want to say it's my favorite game, but I don't want to commit to that yet. Even though at the end of every game, I'm putting the box away and I'm like, damn, this is it. This is the one that's coming in hot. Like, it's not even at number 10. It is just going right for number 1. And I love that game. But I do have a hard time recommending it because it is so pricey. And that was a big reason why we didn't get it at first. Now, having played like a good solid 15 times, I'll recommend it to anyone. I'll recommend it to anyone any day. Let's talk about Too Many Bones.
I hadn't heard about Too Many Bones before you started posting about it. So can you give me a quick rundown about how it plays?
Sure. So it is a asymmetric dice heavy. So it is completely individual dice for each character. So each person plays their own, they're called gear locks, which is just their own character. And you have your own unique dice as well. And it's completely cooperative, and you go through an adventure. So each game you play is a preset adventure. It's over a certain amount of days, depending on what boss you're going to fight at the end. And the boss has certain requirements you need to meet before you can even challenge it. So whether it be complete 8 scenarios within 10 days, that type of thing. And as you go, you get training points, which allow you to skill and spec into certain abilities or level up your overall health. And the coolest part is that you're like a poker chip. Each character is a poker chip, and your health is depicted by poker chips underneath them. So as you go out to battle, it is like a 4x4 grid. And there's melee and there's ranged combat. And as you lose health, you remove poker chips, and it's the same with the baddies. And they're actually called baddies, which I found super funny at first. I was like, can't we just call them enemies? I don't like that
Why
word.
Why you gotta call them baddies?
Baddies.
I love it.
But now I'm like, yeah, baddies. Let's kill those baddies. And there's they range from difficulty 1 all the way to 20. And as you go through the days, the difficulty of them progress. And your goal is to defeat them in combat. There's an initiative tracker. It is insane. It is completely endless, the different combos of baddies to your gear lock. Each gear lock has different trees to spec into. So this time I went some crazy YOLO spec where you needed to hit a certain dice roll in order to activate a bigger damage cloud to everything. Mm-hmm. And it must have been 6 or 7 rounds. And you can lock dice too to save them for your next round. And I must have been rolling dice for 6 rounds just trying to hit this one side. But when I did, it was so good. It was so good. So it was... I could have kicked something over. I was so excited.
So while you're trying to hit that dice, you're also having to maintain your health while you're getting attacked.
Yep. So I've been finding myself playing more damage dealers. Surprise, surprise. Well, Todd, my husband, has been playing very tanky Healy guys. And how you're set up in this grid. So think a 4x4 grid. If you're in the back, you're mostly ranged, so you can hit at a range. But if you're melee, you're right up front combat, taking damage from the bad guys, the baddies. So you have to maintain your health. There's one character that does 0 personal healing. I would get crushed every round. Every time I would be dead, and then Todd would be just standing there in the front, getting whacked by every baddie, hoping we survive to the end. But each character, super unique. They scale in difficulty. So there's super easy characters that just deal damage to very difficult guys that have this crazy melee ranged interaction that can also tank, that can also heal, that do damage. It's insane. There's so many different gear locks to play, and I just want to keep playing. That's all I want to do. I'm thinking about it right now. I just want to play that game.
You had me at dice. I think dice is probably one of my favorite things in a game, just dice chucking.
And so you would really like this. And the fact that each character has their own unique dice and you decide. So that's a big thing with me in co-op games. I have a hard time with games where you get like the alpha player, and they make the decisions for you kind of, and you're like, yeah, let's just go with it. Like, cause you're making a good point. This game's completely up to you how you do it, even though that you are co-op and you're working together to defeat the baddies. How you build your character and how you deal that damage or how you survive is completely up to you. And it's so intricate to the point where you don't have time to like look at what your teammates are doing. Like, it's completely on them, it's completely on you. And I think that's why I really like it, because it's still an individual game while you're working together.
That's awesome. I think the way that you're describing the way that it plays reminds me of how Jaws of the Lion plays. Which
that is it.
Great.
That is exactly it. So think like Jaws of the Lion with dice.
Say no more.
Yeah, that's it.
So Phil is in chat right now. He asked what game that we're talking about. We're talking about Too Many Bones. And I think Danielle did a really great job at selling the game to me.
I love... Oh, I'm sorry.
Go, Kasey.
No, I was going to say, I love the visual aspect of seeing your health diminish, like with the poker chips. That is just, I think it will give you that anxiety when you're like going through battle. Like, I can imagine.
It's nice. So like picture like a big boss coming in with like a stack of poker chips and he's like hanging out. And usually the ones that we've encountered so far, you have to like defeat things before you can actually start attacking him. And he's just like looming about the map while you're like over here like this, and you're like trying to play like musical chairs, like, oh gosh, no, don't come near me. And you just see like your health dwindling more. Yeah, that is you nailed it, Kasey, because I never thought of it that way. But when you see those towers all around you, you're like, oh goodness.
What about you, Kasey? What have you been playing lately?
Oh, we've been playing a few different things, like a little bit. This week we've been playing some smaller games. Last night we played Dinosaur Island, so that was a ton of fun. Or it was 2 nights ago, actually. I'm like getting our days mixed up. Last night I actually did solo Overboss. Have you guys gotten a chance to play Overboss yet?
Not yet, but it is coming in the mail. So I'm excited to try it out because I love Kevin Russ.
Yes,
Calico, and I played Tumbletown, which I really loved as well. So anything with his name on it, I think I'm like sold now.
Yeah, and I guess he got together with the creator of Boss Monster, and so they collided these worlds, and you can see Calico on it. It does play faster, which I really like because you know Calico's like what 40 minutes, 35 minutes.
Yeah, it can be a bit.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. The Boss Monster Overboss plays a lot faster, and the solo mode is really cool because it has a campaign. So you can go through and tiles are like assigned to the, for depending on which level you choose. And you can choose if you're going from easy, medium, or hard. And if you're doing something like hard, you only have like one opportunity to complete the level or else you have to like start over. And in order to complete it, you have to like basically complete these 2 out of 3 schemes. It's really nice. And so for those who don't know Calico or Overboss, it's a tile lane game. So you have these tiles that you're drafting, and it's like set in the retro 90s 16-bit type graphics for video games. And the tiles have a monster associated with them. And when you're placing them on your map and you're building your overworld, you have to pair the locations of the monsters in a place that kind of makes sense. So like, for example, if you get like a sandworm, you're going to want him in the desert terrain, right? So he'll give you bonus points if he's in the proper location. Or, for example, if you have like a band of gargoyles, so they say a band of baddies. They don't use the word baddies. But
I love that word now.
That's just my new word for everything. So, like, if you have a 3 of the same type of monster in the grid, they're called a band, and they give you bonus points. And it makes sense because if you have 3 gargoyles, that's going to be more troublesome than 1, right? So, I think it's really fun. Like, it's a very quick pace, like 20 minutes for a game. There's 2 sides to the board. There's the smaller side and the larger side. The larger side is easier, which I didn't expect. It's a longer game, but I think it's also easier to play. The smaller side's where it's at, the small board on the front.
It's nice to know that it plays well at like 1 player. I think what I'm starting to realize now, I realized through Calico that I really love like solo player games. Just for when, like, I don't know, when I want to play a game, but Phil doesn't, and I just want to like be in like my own little bubble. And it's also great for learning a game for the first time. So I have been experimenting more with solo variations of games, and I found out that not all of them are great. So
I want to hear something that wasn't as fun.
So what's it called? I was playing Chai the other day, and I tried to play the solo variant, which wasn't the most balanced. You were playing kind of like against a bot, but you would roll dice to see what they would do. And every time the bot rolled like a check mark, then he would take one of the customers, just take the lowest one from the market and just for free. And then I kept on rolling check marks, and so I kept on getting customers taken from me, and I was tilting a bit.
Oh no, that doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah,
that's tough when the dice can determine. It's like luck can determine that kind of a aspect of a game. No, I definitely think Overboss. I keep wanting to call it Boss Monster because that's like that's what the creators from Boss Monster did it. But Overboss, I think, plays just as good at first as one player as two player. Yeah, it's definitely one of those games that, like Calico, I think you don't need another person. It's just as enjoyable.
I will play it by myself. Like when I got Calico and I started playing the solo version, I just like woke up and just brought it over to the table, and I was just playing. And then Phil was like, "Are you playing Calico right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just got done with 2 scenarios."
You're like, damn straight I am.
Yeah. So we have TonX88 in the chat that says, "You're all doing great things for board gaming. Thanks."
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That's very nice.
So I want to hear a bit about your like hobby board gaming origin story. I think I have heard a little bit about Danielle's. So Kasey, I'm going to go ahead and ask you kind of like how you started getting into hobby board gaming.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really interesting. When I was younger, me and my cousins would get together every Saturday night, and we would play board games together. And I don't know if you remember maybe a game called 1313 Dead End Drive.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to escape with the inheritance and to this like money inheritance because like the rich person has died, right? And you're trying to escape, and there's a lot of traps and things that can kill you. It's a remake from an 80s game, and but we were like obsessed with that as when we were younger. And then this game called Masterpiece, it was a bidding game where you bid on paintings and you don't know if they're forgeries or not. And
that's interesting.
My dad just found it and picked it up for me for a surprise like birthday present. And,
nice.
He couldn't keep it in. He was so excited. So my birthday's not till June, and he told me about it already. So I'm so stoked. But so those were like my first like intro to like non-typical gaming. I mean, as a family, we did the typical stuff. But then, I kind of like stopped in school and everything. I didn't really play anything remarkable like in high school or anything like that. And then once I was older, Miguel and I started dating, and I had a few games, but only like, Monopoly, Life, Scrabble.
The standard.
The standard. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have any of those cool like childhood games anymore because they had gotten like ruined. I know we spilt sodas all over Masterpiece.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And but then we started dating, and then we moved to Baltimore, and that was really huge for us. I went for my PhD, and so it was my first time being like out of Texas, like away from my family. And we were kind of looking for things to do, especially as a couple. And so we picked up Magic because I've always wanted to play. Miguel knows it. And so we picked it up, and it was hot like for a while, but it turned into a total we could not. So then we started like really experimenting with other games. And at the time I was on a stipend. So that's one cool thing about neuroscience PhD is you don't have to pay, you get a little stipend, but it was like nothing. Like I got like almost barely livable. So we just didn't have the means to buy games like we do now, obviously. But we had a few like choice games. Small World was a huge one for me in the beginning. What's another game that we started with that was early on? I went through a Star Wars phase. So I had to have X-Wing and all this. And it's like the ships are so expensive. Like I think about how many games I could have gotten during my X-Wing phase for like how many ships we bought. And same with Imperial Assault. Like I had to have every extra figure. I had to, you know, for those games, they're tough on the wallet.
They are.
They are.
So those were the type of games we were playing. And then I think that when I got into more serious, like heavy Euro gaming was Anachrony. Anachrony was my first heavy game. And that's like really what flipped the switch for me. And that's when I started thinking like, oh, okay, I don't mind going to the store and buying Gloomhaven. Like he wanted Gloomhaven for so long. And I was like, it's $150. We're never going to play. We have games at home. I would say that all the time. I was like, we don't even play the games we have now.
So how long was it I'm sorry, Danielle. How long ago was it that you tried Anachrony?
We got it in 2018. So that was my first heavy game, which is not I would never recommend Anachrony as a first heavy game. Like we chose it on a whim because we went to the store. He wanted Gloomhaven and it was way too much money. And I was just so uncomfortable. And I saw Anachrony and I gravitated to the box, like, you know, a moth to the flame. It's gorgeous. The box it's just this like beautiful pyramid. And so I gravitated. I'm like, what's this about? And it's purple. Which Danielle, I know you love your purple.
that box would definitely. I think about it a lot.
It just like it calls to you. And then I'm a big sci-fi movie lover, and so of course, like I gravitate towards sci-fi games too. And it's about time travel. I was like, oh my God, we got to get this. And Miguel looked up a quick review. And of course, it's really well reviewed. I don't think I understood about weights at the time of games. Like that's just something I thought of back then. And then we tried to play it our first night. And 6 hours in, we got through half the game.
Oh
and
my goodness.
Next night, we tried to teach it to our couple, our best friend couple in Baltimore. And I swear they never wanted, they didn't game with us for like 6 months. They were so pissed. And I could teach it now. I think I could teach it now. Then, no. It was a shit show. It was a total shit show. It was unbelievable. So,
incredible.
But it lit the spark. And then I just became obsessed with games. And then it was like, money's no object. We need everything.
Just like, take it.
I'm like, I don't need to eat out. We used to eat out. And that's one other thing with the pandemic. You know, we don't eat out anymore. We don't do that stuff. All of our investment is like into our games. We're fortunate to, it's just us. So like, you know, we don't have our money can go to our games. We're pretty lucky because of that. So yeah.
Didn't y'all just move to Seattle? Like before, was it during the pandemic or right before?
It was literally as we were driving, because we drove from Baltimore to Seattle, everything was closing. We left on the 14th of March.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I defended on the 4th. I was the last public defense at my university. They shut it down. I was the last one.
Jeez.
Yeah, my parents were able to come in, and as soon as they left, that's when everybody stopped flying. It was just intense, and everyone kept asking where we were moving, and we're like, Seattle, and they're like,
literally the hot spot at the time when the pandemic started.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so I was scared they were going to put up, I think about it now, it's so crazy, but we were driving and we were supposed to have a vacation across the country and we didn't. I cut it short because I was so nervous they were going to close the city.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, what if they shut down the border and we're stuck in a hotel like outside of Washington or something? Yeah, we were like, we booked it 2 days across the country. It was awful. So canceled all of our plans.
That sounds crazy. But at least I assume you've had a lot of time this past year to play games.
Oh yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, so much time. I mean, we try to play a game every day now, which I never did before the pandemic. I never even thought about playing games every day. You know what I mean? And now I feel weird if I don't get a play in. Like it's like, okay, I could have just played a quick round of Ohanami. Come on.
Yeah, I could have just played a quick 15-minute game and I didn't. All right, so just real quick, I have a few people in chat here. Invader Sill says, good afternoon, cool to see y'all. And then we have Ruel who says, hi friends, happy Sunday fun day. Love listening to origin stories. Hi Ruel. And then we're playing games. I don't need to eat out, truly the motto here. You think about it, it's like I could have like this $20 meal, or I could buy like a little filler game.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
So what about you, Danielle? How did you kind of start this whole shindig?
So it's very similar to Kasey's. I was always very into video games. Todd and I are from the beginning of our relationship, which was like 13 years ago now, gross. We started the foundation of our relationship was playing like Dirt on the Xbox. Then we got very heavy into World of Warcraft, and that was a slippery slope. So we were going to video game conventions constantly. Like that was our thing. It was our yearly vacation, and we were sitting in the queue line, waiting to get in because you had to be there at like 7:00 in the morning to be the first one through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a friend with us, and in the swag bags that year were the Magic decks, like the single color like Magic decks. And he's like, "Do you want to learn how to play?" And naive me was like, Magic is for losers. Like, I don't do that. I play World of Warcraft. Like, it was how I felt about D&D when I was like growing up, because I was not the coolest kid, but I was like, I'm never going to play D&D. Joke's on me now. So we're sitting in the queue line, and he taught us how to play Magic. We actually didn't go into the convention right away. We sat there in the hallway where the queue line was for like hours while we learned how to play Magic, and we loved it. Fell in love. We ended up we had never gone to the tabletop section before at PAX. We found ourselves there the whole weekend. We went back to our hotel room. We were in the lobby playing till like 3 a.m. I have never become so addicted to something so fast in my life. So it was Magic. And then from there, it was like the gateway games. We started like going to our local game shop, which we never really been to before. Cause again, it was like, why would we go there? Like, we just play video games. We don't. And then we went in, and that was it. But we picked up like Ticket to Ride and that type of thing. Munchkin. So then as we started playing all these gateway games and light games, we were like, all right, let's dabble in a little bit more. And we had a bit of a setback. We got Munchkin Quest, and I don't think anything's ever come of Munchkin Quest. It had just come out the year we bought it, and it was like this elaborate. I don't think I can explain it because we didn't actually play it. It was like this like map. It was probably like a dungeon diving like big version of Munchkin. Super complex. I can only imagine what the complexity rating is now for it. But I think like you had done with trying to teach your friends anachrony there. We spent like 6 hours setting it up and staring at it and like, what the hell did we do? Like, we are not into board games. This is not what we want to do. And we actually like not really stopped, but we kind of had like is this really what we want to do? So we kind of like rode the Ticket to Ride train for a little bit, and we had the basic games and we loved it. And then we went to like a board game community thing at a brewery, and we were like, we're seasoned veterans. We like beer and we like board games. And someone taught us viticulture. This was probably like 2015, 2016, whenever it came out. Mm-hmm. Whew, that game completely changed my tune of board games. Like, we were like a light gaming family. And then we became heavy. And so when we played viticulture, we're like, what else does Stagmeyer Games make? We bought Scythe. So we went from like 0 to 100, kind of like you with Anachrony, like just like 0 to 100. Fell in love with Scythe, and it was all in at that point. And we haven't looked back since. And then since then, we were like very heavy Euro gamers. Like the Ameritrash style never really like intrigued me at all. And in the past year, being home, like you said, like just playing games every day, and then seeing everyone on like Twitter and TikTok talking about all these cool games that I never in my lifetime would have considered trying to play. I'm like, that actually looks kind of cool. Let me pick that up. So that's when Too Many Bones came in recently. And I was like, I think I might like other style of games. Like, we tried playing Dice Throne. I loved it. All of these other styles. So that's kind of been like my journey from beginning to end. Like, it was not like immediate jump in, I fell in love. It was like trying to figure out what I liked along the way. And now like, it is all we do. It is like, we joke about having our PCs and like all these video games, and we don't even touch it anymore. Like, I look at my PC every day and I'm like, I am so sorry that I just use you for work now. But it's been a fun road, and it is like I think it's like strengthened my family's really, not to get sentimental right now, but like, you know, when things get busy and like you get home at the end of the day, it's so easy to just like go off on your separate way and not talk to each other. Like we play games with our family every single night, and I love doing that every night. So board games, man.
Yeah, to touch on that, that's such a good point, Danielle. By the way, the brain in the jar is Miguel. I think he's on, I think because it's automatic on the Twitch on his iPad, so like it comes up as like, because I was logged in on his iPad, anyways. Just so you know, that's not me. That's Miguel. I don't speak for brain in the jar right now. Anyways, I'm just kidding. But Danielle, just to piggyback off that point, yeah, that's like so true though about what board games can do for your relationships. During my like final few months of my PhD, we obviously weren't gaming. I was trying to finish up my dissertation, and then we moved, and it was so stressful to move. Oh my God. This was like, I've moved so many times, and we moved from Texas to Baltimore together too. So we've had like intense moves, but just the pandemic and all of that added anxiety made it so stressful. And we weren't gaming for like a month. And I just felt us like doing complete, like he has a HTC Vive. So he does a lot of virtual reality stuff. And so he was constantly on that. I was constantly like doing work or going straight to like trash TV or something. And I just felt like we weren't like connecting, you know what I mean? Like we used to. And it's funny, I'm going to do a little shout out to Wusung. I was watching TikToks because I got into TikToks to avoid dissertation writing. So I discovered Wusung's TikTok in like April, I think it was. And I was like, oh my God, we need to check out the game stores in Seattle. This is what we need. And then it just like was like a nice wash over, and it really like healed the move. Like it healed all of the stress and the pain that we had experienced with the move and starting 2 new very stressful jobs in a pandemic. So I swear, like nothing makes you learn how to work with your partner like gaming.
Yep. Totally.
It's like you can be pissed at them, but if you want to play a game later and you need another body to play, it's like I better make that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think for all 3 of us, Wusung was the first board game creator that we saw on TikTok, which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Slaying it from the beginning. He was the pioneer.
He truly was. And now here we are.
Yep.
So just a few comments I want to read out. Let's see here. Invader still says, I have so many free magic decks thanks to cons. So I don't really go to cons that much. Is that common? They just give out like magic starting decks?
They used to. They're like free stuff has not been as great. Like I remember probably like 10 years ago going to a con, like they used to have like skins for League, skins for World of Warcraft. Like it was like you would fight people for a swag bag. Like it was hotter than getting into the convention. Like people would like wait in line in queue just for a swag bag because it was hot. Not so much. It's just flyers and pamphlets now. I miss those days. I miss all the fun free stuff. I haven't played League in a very long time, but I have a skin for one of the characters that I'll like floss like every time when I go and play. I'm like, veteran. I am cool. They don't do that anymore, so I'm not that cool anymore.
Dang.
That is one thing like I never do is video games. I think the only video game that I've ever been able to get into is Divinity. I do love Divinity. Divinity's awesome. Like I can play that anytime.
Beat stole my heart, Divinity. The game's so good.
Yeah, it took a long time for me to try it though. I was very like, I don't do that. I don't play video games. Like it's just not my thing. I think I struggle with real time reactions. It gives me like a little bit of anxiety. And the fact that Divinity's turn based. Yep. And you can have like an entire conversation about what you want to do, you know?
Yeah.
It's basically like, it's very Gloomhaven vibe-ish, with more exploring and, you know, tasks to do. So yeah, that was like my jam. I haven't been able to find another one like Divinity. I know
that's a hard one to jump right into. Like that is not an easy game. Like I think I restarted it twice just because I was like, I'm not playing this right. This sucks. Like, but once you figure it out, you're like, oh my God, this is good.
I love it. I love crafting. I love making everything. Oh, it's crunchy. You're right. And when you get into those battles, you know what I mean? And there was times in the beginning, I think this is when I first started gaming too, when we first started playing Divinity, where I was like so attached to my character. So it hurt when shit happened. Like I would be mad, you know what I mean? Like I felt so frustrated. And it's something I've really worked on like throughout my gaming experience is like how to be less attached and try to have more fun. like it's so funny when I feel like that sore loser stuff. Whenever I say that, it's such a joke at me because I really struggled with it. Not in a group. In a group, I'm fine. We're all drinking. We're having a good time. But just Miguel and I, that was one of the hardest things for me was to lose. It's interesting.
Still terrible. You let me know when you figure it out. You let me know because I'm still salty on the regular. Like, what game did we played a game the other day? What the hell was it? Oh, it was Seven Wonders Duel, and he beat me with military, and I was like, you're an ass. And for no other reason than him winning the game, which I knew he was going to win because it was very clear from the beginning, but I was still pissed. Like we went to bed like not talking to each other.
That makes me feel so much better, Danielle.
Oh my God, literally me and Phil just played a game of War of the Ring. I think maybe yesterday. I don't know. I think it was yesterday, but he beat me with the shadow people. And then I did not take it very well. I was kind of not in a great mood.
It's
I don't know. It's tough. And then I feel like just in regards, I don't mind losing, but like personally, when I feel like I didn't perform as well as I could have, I take that shit way too personally. I'm just like in my own head, like you're a piece of shit. Like you should have played that better. And just like you suck, which is like I was going to therapy for a while to work on it. So it's like a work in progress, but that's kind of like my personal issue.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like how mean we can be to ourselves. Like it's like, oh, if you were to hear your friend say it, like I hear you say that, and I'm like, oh my God, we love you so much. But of course, it's like you're the worst to your own. Your inner dialogue is just the worst. But War of the Ring, though, I rage quit War of the Ring. So it's not one of my proudest moments. I was the Fellowship and Miguel was just slaughtering me. And it's hard when you're the Fellowship. The Fellowship is so hard to play. And it was one of our early games. It might have been our first time playing, maybe our second. And I couldn't handle it. It was too bad of a loss. And we didn't finish. It's not one of my proudest. And then I had to play again because I was so embarrassed the next morning. I was like, oof, did that really just happen?
Redemption.
Yeah. And I was like, we need to play again so I can show him I can lose like a champion at this game. And then I won. And I was like, oh shit.
Then you're like,
and you're just like, you're just like trying to like contain it. It's like, you did so good.
And that's because Miguel's the best loser. He's like such a good loser. I'll give him his props. He has a good time when he plays a game. He knows how to just have a great. There's a couple duels is one of those. Seven Wonders Duel. Like if I win military or scientific track, that's just annoying to people.
It's a personal attack, really. Yeah. Like the whole game is just a personal attack on the other person.
Yeah, it's like you're not even gonna let this game play out to like its full extent. You're just gonna end it right here. That's disrespectful.
I think that's the only one I've seen him get salty at. And one time he got a little salty into Kenhu, this dice placement game by David Terzi and Daniel Tassini. It's a great game, but like it's my jam. So that's a hard one to like. When we play that one, he just sees the victory point tracker just like as his, and I think it does this too much. I get it, but yeah, it's interesting. How much though I feel like I've changed because of board gaming. I think it's made me more like tolerable, like definitely more of a better person to work with because I don't have a temper as bad anymore. You just learn so much about how to deal with conflict.
Completely agree with that. Totally agree with that. And it's something I've been talking about with my oldest daughter. She loves playing games with us. But just the skills you get from board games between, learning how to deal with conflict and strategizing, time management. Like for me to like be able to sit down at work and think about what I'm going to do like today and the weeks ahead, I totally give credit to board games and like how I like handle like hard situations and strategizing to come to an end of it. Where I was 5 years ago and where I am on a career now, completely different because of board games. As cheesy as it sounds, I really like, I relate all of those skills to board games, especially as you start playing the harder stuff too, where it does require you to like sit down and think out everything you're going to do from now to the end of the game. Oh, it's great. So I have my oldest daughter play games with us and she's like, and I'm trying to teach her like the motherly lessons. I'm like, and how do we relate this to school? And she's like, she's like, stop, for the love of God. Like, but I'm like, no, this is good lessons learned.
She's like, I just want to play Wingspan, please.
Yeah, pretty much. Where's the eggs?
So does she, what's like the most I have like a bad habit of like, I'm not sure how other people can like grasp more complicated board games. So when people ask me for recommendations, I'm just like, okay, like is Splendor okay? Or will that be like too hard for someone who's never touched a board game before?
That,
so, like,
yeah. And I feel like my perspective on it is a little out of whack too. Cause so when we got into board games, like she was probably like 2. So she's played with us from the beginning. We started with Castle Panic and then she played Ticket to Ride with us. She's actually playing Sleeping Gods with us right now. And she's loving it. She is loving it. Well, she played, what did we play with her? We played Near and Far. We played Charterstone with her. So a lot of the co-op games are really good, but we've played some pretty heavy stuff with her recently. And it's clicking. It's finally starting to click. And not in a way. So like before when we play games, there would always be an unfair advantage to whoever's sitting on the left of her because like she wouldn't think about, steps ahead. She'd just be like, all right, in this moment, this seems like a good decision right now. And not really thinking about how it would impact me and my next turn. It's really cool to see her like click on that. She's like, well, if I do that now, then she's going to have an advantage. And I don't want that. So, I think my perception on what's good for like kids completely out of whack. I'm like, oh yeah, my 12-year-old can play Sleeping Gods, totally good. Like, when in reality, I think that age should be Ticket to Ride. I don't know. I could be totally off. I'm like training my children for like heavy duty scythe by the time they're 10. Like, let's bust out Anachrony when they're 8. Let's go.
Do it. I love it.
So do y'all have any other friends that you play board games with? I guess right now it's kind of difficult in the pandemic, but like, would you have other board game friends that you would like meet up with and play with or?
Yep. So sorry, Kasey, you can go.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
So we have one good friend. He was coming over at least twice a week. We try and play with him online now. Kind of when things got really bad again around Christmas time, we stopped our like weekly get together. So he was the only person we saw for like the past year, which is crazy. And we're dearly missing him right now. So when we have like a hard timeline, like maybe in April, like first week back, he'll be back. But he is like such a wonderful addition to like our 2-player game nights. Like Todd and I, it's just 2 players, him and I. So when he would come, I'd be like, ooh, what are we going to play now? Like, but he is so brilliant. And like, when he comes and plays with us, it like totally challenges us to do new things. But him and his brother are like buddies for Gloomhaven and all of our campaigns, which have been totally on hold for the past year. And I cannot wait for them to come back. But he is like, I'm like, you're like my BFF. Like, don't tell Todd, but we need you back. And he's like, so we try and play with him on like Wednesday nights on Tabletop Simulator. We've played D&D campaigns with him. He is like, he's the bee's knees. We need more Christopher back in our lives. Like, and I'm sure he's watching right now. So he's like, oh, Danielle, he's so nice.
That is so funny because we had a roommate whose name is also Christopher. And he actually moved to Seattle, which is pretty funny. So he's definitely missed as well because we would play with him a lot.
I thought you lived in Seattle for the longest time until I discovered, I think you had posted on Twitter that you just visited a store in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So you had posted a TikTok of a place by Pikes Peak, one of the game shops. I still haven't gotten a chance to go there. It's like a smaller shop. Right?
Yeah, it's nice and small. It's super cute. It's very like touristy, but it's always nice to see, board games out there in the wild.
I want to go. I haven't had the chance to go over there. And so I thought you were here forever. And I was like, oh my God, Miguel, how do I pop the question? To be like,
A lot of people thought that. I juked a lot of people. I was helping my roommate move up there. So Phil and I were up there for like a week. It was super fun though.
We're pretty lucky. We have one couple here in Seattle, Mike and Shireen, and we play with them. Miguel and them are vaccinated. I am not yet. I'm hoping to get that done soon. So I'm just like the odd man out right now. So we're pretty comfortable gaming with the foursome. And it's been really nice. They have a pretty decent collection. So I got to play Agricola. That was one that I hadn't had the opportunity to try out. And they're so expensive sometimes, some of the big UAs. So it's like, oh my goodness, do I need Agricola in my collection? But I really want to play all of them, you know?
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And that was a fun. Shireen like killed it with the the animals in that one. She just like went full on production on her animals mating, and it just was such a good strategy. That was a fun one. But yeah, and then in Baltimore we had another couple, Sam and Meg. Sam was in my PhD program with me, and they're still there, and they were awesome to play with. We had to finish every round though with Catan. They were huge with Catan. So
more power to them.
It was intense. Like the first few times I was like, oh yeah, I love it. Like, let's play. But then we would always play it at the end because we would bring a game we wanted to play with them. And we would always have to force them into our game. And especially after Anachrony, we took it down a notch. Like we brought over some unstable unicorns, like definitely took it back. But then we would always end with Catan, and it just got to a point where I was just wasted every time we played Catan. I'm so drunk right now. I'm just like, only thing I can focus on is Longest Road, and I got it. And so that's all I care.
Sorry, I was saying the last game of Catan, I pronounce it Catan that we played. Yeah. So we have the Game of Thrones version, which is pretty fun and adds some pretty nice stuff into it, but it just went on for way too long. Because it's funny, we don't like trading with each other. We don't like giving someone else what they need. So we're just relying on whatever dice we roll. Like, oh my God, I hope I get a wood this turn. And then it just went on for way too long, and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. The Sam and Meg were always good about trading. So the three of us, Miguel never trades. Him and his dad are the same. One time we got together for a family thing and we played Monopoly with his parents. And I'm like the deal maker in Monopoly. I know you're not supposed to though, right? Like technically you're not supposed to do anything. I don't think
so.
Monopoly's free game at this point, I feel. You can make Monopoly what you want.
Seriously. But it was the one game we could, get them to sit down and play with us, and we were playing it. And his dad and him just won't do anything. They won't trade. They won't do any bargaining, nothing. And I'm like, oh, that's where you get it from. I got it now. Okay.
Well, that's how I feel about Seven Wonders. I would rather go down losing than give someone gold for their resources. And I'll be the person, I think I'm terrible at that game. I've come to the realization I am awful at that game because I'm the one that's stacking resources because I refuse to give someone my hard-earned dollar for a brick. I would so rather, lose than do that. So I feel you, Miguel. I so feel you. No.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of conflict at all when it comes to games. So area control games, I'm not that I don't like them, because have you guys played Ethnos before? That's an area control game that I really like, but I don't want to I'm scared I'm going to piss somebody off by taking over the little area. So I just stay in my little quadrant, which isn't always the best strategy, but
I don't mind. I think the one thing that probably is preventing me from Dice Throne is I don't like combat with dice. I don't mind it against the boss. I don't like it when Miguel and I are fighting each other with dice. It's very specific. If I'm losing against the boss and it's cooperative, in Too Many Bones, for example, right? I'm okay with that because we're in it together. You know what I mean? We're suffering together to try and take down this baddie. But if I'm in a situation where him and I are for example, Cthulhu Wars duels. That's a dice chucking game, right? So you're chucking and you're fighting each other. And we played it a few times now, and I've been fortunate to win. But I told Miguel, I think if I was losing this game, I would not be enjoying it. I struggle when a dice roll is going to determine how bad you hurt me. It's
Mhm.
like, well, or if I roll dice and I get like 1s, 2s, and 3s don't hit in Cthulhu Wars duels, only 4s and 5s make you evade, and 6s are kills. So I had like 14 dice. I threw them. They were all 1s, 2s, and 3s. I was pissed. I was like, I hate that feeling. I'm just like, oh my God. And then he just wiped out my old guard, not God, right? It's old guard. He's in the other room. My old guard that cost me 10 power to bring out. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So it's an interesting, like, I think I struggle a little bit more with like dice when it's like 1v1. I don't know if you can speak to Dice Thrones, if you think that it would be like that, Danielle.
So I've only played Dice Throne Adventure, and I only played one scenario of it. And so what you're like talking about is exactly how I feel about most Ameritrash games. Like the fact that you don't have the agency over how well or not well you're going to do. Like you could be totally set up and be like, yeah, I'm going to crush it right now.
Yeah.
And have the shittiest dice roll under the sun. You're like, what? Why? Like, why? Like, I just prepared for a half hour to like have nothing come of it.
Exactly.
I have a very hard time, but my experience with Dice Throne Adventure, which I'm assuming is very much the same as Dice Throne, like PvP style, is that there was always something you could do with those dice, whether you hold on to it to the next turn or you can convert it into like something else. So even though it may not have been what your intended action was, I think there's always a way to, remediate it or fix it. It's the same with Too Many Bones. That's why it's called Too Many Bones. When you roll a bone, which you would think is bad, there's a way to like collect those and then utilize them eventually. Like each Gearlock has their own ability to use those bones. So even though it feels shitty at that moment to roll a bunch of bones, you're like, why? Like I'm like the quote, I'm sitting on Baltic with shit. Like this is terrible. But like in the next turn, you're like, wow, all right, I'm gonna trade in these 6 bones and I'm gonna do something baller. So just having that agency over like your turn, I really like. So what you're saying with dice rolls, when you can't do anything about your dice roll, I'm all set with that. I'm all set with getting irrationally upset over a dice roll. Like I've been in tears sometimes over a bad, I am not afraid to cry over a bad dice roll.
That's kind of how I feel about push your luck games. Like whenever I play a push your luck, I have learned that I really need to go into this game and just not care about anything. Just like try to push my luck and which is hard. Yeah.
It's so hard not to care.
And most of the time I would, play games like, let's say like Mystic Vale and like try to win, but in trying to win, I'm not really pushing as much as I should. And then I lose and I'm just like, well, then if I push, then I bust and I still lose. So I'm just like, but
caught between a rock and a hard place. So you're just like,
yeah, but I do enjoy quacks.
I love quacks. Yeah, I like quacks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it gives you the option. So if you blow up, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't feel all that good, but it still gives you the option to like, okay, I won't get the benefit of both, buying and getting the points.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, which one am I going to do? So it doesn't feel too terrible when you like do bad.
I'm not too sure, but I don't think Miguel's a big fan of the rat tail rule with quacks.
Rat tail rule.
I did too. I took advantage of it though. So like, I guess it just depends. Like I do know, like, for example, we played a game not a couple nights ago of quacks and he was like killing me, right? He was doing such a great job, but the rat tails did give me that push up I needed. And then I had one really good pot. The best pot like brewed. And then I caught up and then I won the game. And he was like, that's such bullshit. I should have won that one. He's like, we have rat tails. And I'm like, yeah. That happens.
I love a good comeback mechanic. When a game introduces a way for you, so it doesn't feel so like desolate when you're behind. There's been so many games where if we're behind, like we'll be like vocal about it. Be like, well, there's no point in me doing that because you're going to friggin' win anyway. That type of thing. I love games like Quacks that introduce a comeback mechanic. So you're like, all right, there's still hope. Like there is still hope for all of us here in the back of, the point scoring tracker. I'm trying to think of another game recently that had that where I was like, oh, thank God for that weekend. But I am like, when they develop a game and put that in there, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making me feel better about losing.
For sure. There's a few. I'm trying to think. Like the only one I can think of off the top of my head, and it's not as good as Quacks, is Dinosaur Island. If you're last on the victory point track, you go first. So you have like your first option of the picks. I know that for first player token. Or is it that if you're first on the victory point, you go first? I think it's if you're last on the victory point track, you go first.
I think that is what it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'm just like, I said it and I'm like, oh shit, did I get that?
I know Danielle's not a fan of dinosaurs, so I'm going to assume that you haven't played Dinosaur Island.
So I hate dinosaurs. I fucking hate them. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. Like,
It's okay.
like it is like embarrassingly not funny, like how much I hate dinosaurs. So my dad brought me to see Jurassic Park in the theater when it came out, which I think I was like 7 or 8, because that's a great idea. Let's bring our like very young child. I have been traumatized. I like just talking about it right now. I'm going to have some pretty whack dreams tonight of like raptors coming out of my bed, opening doors. Like, so my toddler recently figured out how to open a door the other day. And of course,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So of course that quote came out, clever girl. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like small tears. I was like, how am I going to sleep tonight thinking about this? And it's awful. So my parents, we went to Universal and I refused to go on the dinosaur ride. And my mom paid me $50 to do it. And I was like, fine, I got this. I did not have it. I did not have it. Like at all. Tears. I can't. So I tried to find the picture. My parents can't find it in the attic. And I'm a little pissed about it because that was worth more than $50. Tears. And I ended up talking about it on Twitter. And Danny from Pandasaurus caught wind. And she's like, I'm sending you Dinosaur Island. So we have that coming soon. And I'm sure I'll be fine because they're kind of cute, right? They're kind of cutesy cartoony.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But the second you slap on some real scales, like some realistic looking teeth, no. Hard no.
They're pretty cute, and then the dinosaur meatballs are just just like a cookie cutter shape.
I'm okay with that.
You got to do a video of you unboxing Dinosaur Island.
It better not be freaking scary because I haven't even looked at it. I know it's like cool, like 80s style coloring, like the jazz coloring. I haven't even looked because I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
So we have a question from We're Playing Games in chat that says, what about games where it's hard to tell if you're winning or losing? No point tracker and stuff like that. I can't think of a game like that off the top of my head. I know they exist though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some where you're not 100% sure.
Oh, Concordia.
I love Concordia.
I do love Concordia.
So someone brought to light in one of my lives the other day about Concordia. We were talking about like drinking games, and because I'm not super into party games, I like to like think of like Space Base is my type of party game. Like I'm into that. And someone was like, Concordia. And I was like, who's playing Concordia as a party game? And the more he was like talking about it, he's like, yeah, you set sail, like you go and collect resources, you get loaded. It's a great time. And I was like, I am so sorry for judging you in your opinion on Concordia as a drinking game because you are 100% correct. And I will only think of it that way now. But I enjoy that game quite a bit.
Some of Uwe's games, his larger games, you can't really tell. Like Agricola, when we played it, I had no idea who was winning. And when we do Fields of Arle or any of those other games, I can never relate because there's no point tracker. And so you're just like, I guess you can be paying attention, like, oh, you got that negative point there. You don't have that covered yet, or you don't have the breeding. But like, that's hard when you're trying to focus on like your own player board with those big games for Uwe. That like, I don't know. I couldn't do it. At least I'm so focused on like, okay, if I take this action now, shit, they just took my place. They went exactly where I wanted to go.
Between Two Castles, we played recently as another game, and it's like so tiling, and you try and build cities on either side of you with your partners, but you don't really know who's going to win until you tally it up at the end. But like you said, like you're so concerned about like building your own cities to even think about like, oh, what are they doing over there? Like, so I like that aspect of it. It's a nice mystery at the end where you're like, oh damn, I lost by 2 points.
I love when everyone's just like sitting around the table, like adding their stuff up on the calculator, and just like, what did you get? What did you get?
Yep.
I saw Keyflower in the chat. Yeah, that's another really good one. Keyflower is a lot of fun. Keyflower, we have not had the opportunity. We added that in the pandemic. We haven't had the opportunity to play that at more than 2 players. And if we had a blast at 2, you're doing bidding for like meeples, and you have hidden information of what colored meeples you have, and you're like you're bidding on these tiles that you bring into your city with the meeples as like your resource, right? And there's like a color aspect to it with like what meeples you can place. Oh, it is so much fun. And I don't know, have you guys gotten a chance to try Keyflower?
I need to put that on my list of games to get. It's pretty big, that list.
Yeah, Miguel, you know what's funny? Keyflower is one of those that it's not fancy. Okay, so like Miguel got it for me for my birthday, and I was like, whose birthday is this? This is not a game I would get myself. That's so rude, right? No, I was super grateful. But I just like, the box is not my style. It's not my style at all. It's got some chunky meeples in there. It's got hexes, and the rule book is no flavor text, 0. It's like, this is what you do.
I love a good game like that. I sometimes want that. I thrive on that. Give me basic mechanics. So
well, that's exactly yeah.
Keyflower's is now at the top of the list. Thank you, Kasey.
and I'm gonna say this, like, with all of that, I freaking it sat on our shelf for like 3 months. 3 months. I was like, I don't want to. And then finally I felt guilty because it was a birthday present. I'm like, let's play Keyflower tonight. I'm going to throw you a bone, babe. And I loved it. I was like, oh, this is such a great game. I feel so bad that I took so long to try this out. And I just like, that's one I can't wait to play at a higher player count.
Nice. I love, so for the most part, do y'all and your husbands have like the same taste in games?
Identical. It's annoying. Like, it is like it's so annoying. It's funny that you say that. So your whole you got it as a gift, Kasey. So our 10-year anniversary, wedding anniversary just happened, and we were talking about, because we don't really buy each other gifts. Like, we just buy shit when we want it. Like, it's never really like, oh, grandois. He's like, you know what, and I had mentioned to him, I was like, maybe we could do something nice this year. And I'm thinking, like, I'm going to get him something dope. He's like, would you like a game for our anniversary? I'm like, babe, we literally buy games daily. Like, that is this much special. He's like, how about if it's an Eagle Griffin game? And I was like, well, this is a change of pace here.
Now you're romancing me.
Yeah, like, it was Rococo, by the way. It was Rococo.
Nice,
but like, I'm thinking, like, he's going to bring home like something super small, and like, kind of, I'm like, this is not what we're celebrating 10 years over. But our taste is horrendously the same. Like, there is so little variety between us. And we're getting better with it, but everything from video games to board games to food to beer it is so gross when you live with someone for 13 years and you like, I could not say something and he would just do it. And I'd be like, did I say that? Did I say that? And he's like, no. I'm like, you just read my mind. Gross. Yeah, it's gross.
I love that. Yeah, you're just like morphine into one person.
Yeah, osmosis. We are just like this. Except he's like this big and I'm like this big. He's like this little tiny twig. And I'm yeah, hell yeah.
What about you and Miguel, Kasey?
We're pretty similar. I think when it comes to like heavier games, I think we're very similar. Like, we like very like chunky, like heavy Euro games. I think sometimes I like tile lane and abstract games a little bit more than he does. Like, if it's like a light night, I think he's more the type to pull out Cthulhu Wars Duel, definitely, like a 1v1 head-on match. And I'm more like, let's do some, like, you do your Calico, you do your mat, I do my mat. Like, let's. But even Calico, I get pissed when he takes my tile. I'm like, you knew I wanted, and I say this a lot, I'm like, you knew I wanted that tile. He's like, how would I know?
It's like, no, you knew. And I'm
you just stare. You knew.
Oh my god, it's the worst. But yeah, no, I'm definitely like on a light night though. The other night, we've been doing a lot more cartographers on weeknights when we're tired, and he is just digging that, and I'm digging it. Like, it's just been so pleasant to like. I can't wait for. We didn't back the expansion. You did though, right, Raina?
We did. We backed Cartographer Heroes, and we're super excited to get it.
I regret it. I didn't add it until the new year. So I think actually we did add it in December. And I think it sat on our shelves for like a good month because I didn't know, like, I knew I needed it. And I was like, okay. And then something about, I'm getting into roll and writes. Let me just say, like, I got Roman.
Me too.
Dude, same, literally same. We played Roman Roll, and that was our first heavier roll and write. And then, you know, like mid game where everything just clicks and you guys just look at each other like, oh, I like this game. We had that moment in Roman Roll. Yeah. And then so we also just bought Fleet the Dice game, which we're excited to try.
I want it.
I need that. Yeah, we need that.
I never thought I was going to enjoy it, but now it's definitely on my list. The first roll and write I actually played was Three Sisters.
Same.
And nice. I was like, oh, this is really fun. And when we were playing Cartographers, we're going to pick up Railroading too. There's just something about, like, I've been like crazy busy this month with work. And so there's something about coming home and not having to set up a game, you know?
Amen. 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 This month has been insane. There's a reason why my like daily like board game a day thing has dropped off because work has been insane. So when you say that, we've been playing so much Railroading. It is a godsend. It is incredible.
It's so nice. And like, even on a night, like for example, Friday night, we had been playing light stuff and we missed a night last week. So I was like, we need a heavy game night. Like, let's go. I need to not think about work. So we were like Dinosaur Island, Quacks, and we started with Cartographers to kind of warm. Because, you know, when you get out of work, there's that like, you see the couch, you have a beer and you're like, oh, I could probably just sleep. You know?
Yep.
Do we need to play a game? Like, I'm tired. And Miguel was exhausted. And I'm like, no, you can't take a nap.
Get up. We're playing.
I'm like, you don't have to get up. You can stay at the couch. Here's Cartographers. Let's
just
play.
Throw the box.
I know, seriously. And it warms you up, though. It gets your juices flowing. And then you're like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean? So I really dig. And he's been doing it on his iPad. So, like, which I'm jealous because he has all the colors. And mine's like black and white. So I'm going to get some colored pencils. So that way.
Ooh, love that. Love that. I actually bought my first, I'm pretty excited about it, my first Lacerda game.
I saw.
Yeah. So it's crazy. So I just started playing, like, getting into hobby board gaming, like when Phil and I started dating, which is at the very end of 2018. And even then, most of the games that we've played, like he's been like, you know, like the board game, like king, he knows everything that's going on. And it wasn't until I started making board game content and getting involved with the community that I started seeing like, oh, there's more than Azul out there. And then so I started getting into like, you know, researching like designers like Lacerda and like I can't pronounce his name. Yue? Rosenberg, right?
Sometimes like people go heavy on the V and sometimes they don't. I'm just like,
I like a nice in between the Uwe.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, that's the only way it should be pronounced now.
It really is. Yeah. So when y'all learn like new board games, how do you go about it? Does one person learn it and then they teach the other person, or do you both learn it separately? Yeah.
So it's usually Todd that learns it. I try to so I have a handful of games that I will learn, like Rococo. I was super passionate about Mechs versus Minions. That's my jam. There's a lot of games that I want to learn, but for the most part, like that's his shtick. Like I'm over here making the content and he loves to sit back. He'll sit on the couch and just read a rule book. Like that is his thing. Like he'll listen to podcasts on the way to work about how to play a game. He loves doing that. And he kind of does what you do, Raina, with playing like the solo mode to learn how to play, which I'm very grateful for, because then we start playing and he's like, this is what you do, bing, 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 and we're good to go. But I like to, you know, also kind of like do it once in a while. Like I sometimes feel left out. I'm like, I'm always learning from you. Like it's my turn. I want to learn. But he just did Kanban this week, and it must have been 3 nights in a row. He watched videos, he read a rule book, he played a solo mode by himself and explained it to me. So I was like on the couch watching trashy TV after a super shitty day. I was like, I don't even want to look at you, but I'm going to listen to you because you're very excited about this game right now. And he had everything set up and he was like, got his beer going. And he was just playing by himself. He's like, and this is what you do next. And then, oh, Sandra's coming. Here she comes. But like, I listened enough to be able to play it the next night. But that's usually how it goes. It's him like playing by himself and explaining it to me while I'm just like, not now.
What about you, Kasey?
Yeah, I do the rules teaches for us. It's been like that since in the beginning. It was both of us trying to figure it out and get like into the game and watching a lot of YouTube videos. Now, since I've been getting a little bit more serious, I try not to do as much YouTube first. Like I try to read the rule book, don't go to the YouTube video, because I'm trying to assess more what are good rule books to me? Like, what are my opinions on rule books? Like, what are they doing well? What don't I like? A really good example of a rule book I'm not a fan of, I love the game, is Brass Birmingham.
Oh.
So that rule book is like rough.
Terrible.
I mean, I had to reference YouTube because I needed actual clarifications on like rules, because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, like what this is telling me right now. So like now I feel like a lot more confident to be like, oh, that's not a good rule book. I've read a good rule book. You want to see a good rule book? Let me show you one. But yeah, so I do mainly the rules teaches. Miguel likes to give me a hard time because he says I do great, but I always manage to get one little thing off. So we'll play.
That's not fair. You're learning the game. Like you get
Cut
some
my girl
leeway.
a break.
Give me that hard time. It will play through the whole entire game, and then one thing will be like, oh, that's what that meant. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so funny with Paladins, because that was hilarious. That the one thing I got wrong was huge.
Game changer.
I was just like, oh shit. Okay. Well, I will say the rule book for Kanban EV is fantastic. It's one of my favorite rule books.
Nice.
It's really, really good for Kanban. The guy who would like participate, he has a YouTube channel. I'm blanking on the name right now. He's British. I think he's British. He has an
Paul
accent.
Grogan?
Yes.
Oh, he's my boy. I love him.
Yeah, I think he like either helped out with the writing or like was even full on like writing the rule book with them. Yeah.
He writes a lot of rule books, and I've noticed the ones that he either, if he has written or if he's like worked on, they're incredibly done. I think just his style of videos and writing and explanation is very well done. It seems a little dry at times, but he's so concise, and I really enjoy Paul Grogan's stuff that he puts out.
Nice.
And on the topic of Lacerda, I just got a big box from Eagle Griffin Games of games, and I cannot wait to play them. So I got the Gallerist and Escape Plan.
Nice.
Ooh,
I played Escape Plan. Is hot fire. It is very good.
That's the one we don't have right now, is Escape Plan. We just got CO2 Second Chance. Miguel got it for me for Valentine's Day. We haven't played it yet, though. Yeah, he found it used. And yeah, so that was exciting. And we haven't played it yet, though. That's the one. I think that's the only one. Oh, and Vinhos. We just added Vinhos, and we haven't.
I need to play that one.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to start my Lacerda journey. My birthday's coming up in May, and I can't wait for all my family to ask me, what do you want? I'm just like, well, this specific board game. And they're going to be like, that's $100. I'm just like, you asked.
Yeah, Lisboa is really fun. We have only gotten the opportunity to play it twice. We did it in a weekend. So I need to get that one back to the table, because I feel like Lacerda games, like you really can't like get that love for that. You need like those multiple playthroughs. And everyone says that Lisboa, it's a heavy favorite for people. And On Mars is my favorite. So I'm just like, when people say, oh, Lisboa is better than On Mars, it hurts my heart a little bit. I'm like,
I feel like long run, I don't know, me not knowing that much about the games, but I really love space themed games. So I feel like in the long run, I will probably like On Mars better.
Yeah, I'm curious, because the only thing is that Lisboa, we've only gotten to the table twice, and I did love it. It was really enjoyable. The first time we played it, though, we played it wrong. So then we had to play it again. So I don't even know if I should count the first time as a play, because we made a couple of mistakes. Yeah, we made
it's still a play.
Yeah. Games of like that caliber are so hard to play like completely right the first time.
Oh yeah, of course. On Mars, we still like if it's been a while, we'll make shuttle mistakes all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the one for I'm the shuttle person, so I'm like, oh my god, it's shuttle time, and he gets so annoyed with me because he's like ready to take his next action. I'm like, the shuttle needs to go.
We're out the door. We always mess up the it's horrible that we mess it up too. The end game trackers. So like the 3 different missions that you put out, we always forget about
They're
those.
so easy to forget.
Constantly.
I'm always like, I'll remember, and I'm like, okay, how many plans have you gotten? And I'm like,
yeah, and you're counting them.
Yeah.
But then you do that and you realize you're like, wait, was I supposed to have one more? I missed some crystals. I definitely missed some crystals.
Dude,
all the time.
I'm just gonna take 5 crystals. I feel like that's an appropriate amount for my
all the time.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think it's on Mars though. We have played the most. That's like our most played Lacerda game. So I definitely feel like if I get Lisboa to the table more, Galler's. That's why I'm like, I don't like to say which one's my favorite because Galler's have only gone 3 playthroughs of. And I feel like we need more players for Galler's. I want to see that game at 3 or 4 players. Like,
ooh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I did like it at 2. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. But I think it would be so cool because so there's this aspect in Gallerist where you both are trying to make artists more popular, right? And so if you have a 4-player game, you and somebody else could get in on it and profit together off of helping each other get an artist to that like supernova artist level. But when it's just 2 of you, you're not going to help your partner. You're not going to help them get the point. It doesn't help, right? So it's hard to get the artists up into that like stardom because you're not especially Miguel and I, we don't want to help each other ever. So.
Well, I feel like we have the opposite problem sometimes where we play games and we go, I can't imagine playing that with more people. It's how I feel about On Mars. It's already such a long, complicated game to go and teach someone else and then include that like player count and time length. I'm like, damn, I don't want another player to play with us. Like, I don't want to add on another hour of like indecision and decision. But like,
I agree with On Mars. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to add more on there. That game's long enough.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick on Mars, I could play with another couple if they knew On Mars. I would not want, I think I could, but the first game of On Mars it's like super thinky. I feel like they wouldn't enjoy it. And it's just like, like learning on you. I could do it like with another couple that was like, yeah, I'm comfortable playing On Mars. I think that would be interesting to see that map fill up. Like that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I love it at 2 players.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I definitely think heavier games, especially like Lacerda type games, if I were to play it with someone else, it would work best if everyone just knew how to play already.
That's how I feel about Scythe too. As much as I want to play that game with more people, I feel like that wouldn't lend itself well to new players and like bringing on new players. So that's one that like I would hope that someone would learn how to play before we start playing it. And if that person's gonna have such a like unfair disadvantage, we're just gonna smoke them. I know that doesn't feel good coming into a game as a new player. Like they're never gonna want to play games with us again.
That's actually funny because we so in our house, at least before my roommate Christopher moved out, there was 5 of us total that lived in here.
Oh geez.
And we actually played the Scythe campaign during the pandemic. So Scythe got us through the pandemic. So we played through the campaign. It was 4 of us. It was so cool. So, by the end of it, all 4 of us knew how to play really well. And then Chris's girlfriend came over one day and she played with us. And we kind of just like completely like annihilated her, which is like, we did. And then, but she has a very good attitude about it. She's just like, yeah, I don't think I really like the game. I'm just like, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Can't guess why.
I was like, again.
That's so funny. I thought you were going to say something completely that was okay. But no, how could someone like the game, right? After that. That's really cool that you're able to play the campaign with 4 people.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a cool campaign.
Yeah. We just played it between Miguel and I, and I think that would be really fun to play that campaign with more.
It was a lot of fun. And then, well, you 2 have played the campaign, right? Well, Well, without spoiling too much for anyone in the comments, there are some scenarios have different win conditions, so sometimes you don't play out the entire game. And so sometimes we would like sit down and be ready for a full game of Scythe, and it would kind of end prematurely, and then we're like, damn. So we would play more Scythe even like after the campaign was done, and quickly became my favorite game.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm a huge fan of like engine building games.
Same. I think that's why I like Terraforming Mars so much. But I'm also, like I said, afraid to play Terraforming Mars again because I'm afraid it's going to be dethroned. Like, it's been over a year since I've played it, and I still to this day will swear by it and be like, no, it is in my top 3. I love this game. It is out of control good. And I don't want to be disappointed the next time I play, because I've played so many games since the last time I played that. And I've played so many different games, and my perspective is completely different, that I'm going to get that to the table and I'm going to be like, oh, that's not as good as I thought it was. And I don't want to be let down. Like, I think it needs to stay forever in my brain as how I remember it. And that's it. We're never going to play Terraforming Mars again. It's all done. It's just going to collect dust forever.
I think sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if it's about Terraforming Mars, go for it.
Okay, I was saying I think Terraforming Mars is one of those games where I think it plays better at 2 players. Because I cannot sit through like 3 other players like combos. Please spare me.
And then I'm gonna get a molecule, and then I'm gonna get a pet, and then I got a point here, but wait, no, we're gonna take points away. I'd be like, for the love
and then,
of
like,
God,
like
just
2
go.
turns later, it's like, oh, I forgot to tap this card. Can I just like tap it, or can I do that? And I'm just like,
like, no, you can't. You missed it. It's over.
You're done. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that I think one thing though about favorite games is it's like there's so many great games right out there. I was thinking about this was because Anachrony with the new expansion has become my number 1, and I think what does it versus all the other awesome games is that like personal experience, right? Like Anachrony holds like a very special place in my heart because it was the first heavy game Miguel and I got into, and of course Fractures of Time makes it amazing and just like, you know, objectively makes it like a fantastic game. But at the same time, like what makes it better than say like other games that I love that are just as heavy? And I think it's that like personal experience you have. So maybe you'll still feel that love because, you know, you have that connection with the game.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I think I had this roller coaster of emotions with Wingspan when it first came out. I was like, nothing's ever touching this game. This is number 1. I would have argued it. It's like that meme where the guy is at the table. It's like Wingspan's the best game of all time, you know, come argue against me. And I've played it and I still love it. Do not get me wrong. The game is fantastic, but it's definitely not sitting on top anymore. Like there was a solid year where I was like, nothing's ever touching this. This is going to go down in infamy. And now I play it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's fun, but you know, it's not the best.
I love busting it out with new people.
Like,
oh yes.
So, yeah, it's such a great gateway game. So it's like definitely one of my favorites to bring out with new people.
Agreed.
Do y'all have the expansions for Wingspan?
So I think that's
They're
where
not
my love fell off.
necessary.
No. So you can see like the rise and fall, like the rise and decline of my love for Wingspan, because like we bought everything for the base game. Like we have like the neoprene mats, we have the birdhouse, we have everything. And then the European expansion came out. We got that, but we didn't get like all the upgrades for it. And then this last expansion, we don't even have the last expansion. We're like, no, we're good. We've had our way with Wingspan.
Yeah, I struggled with Oceania because we picked up the European and I was just like not happy.
It's just a million more bird cards.
Yeah, and it's like I do love like getting new cards, but it's impossible to handle, right? Like I need a freaking shuffler machine for Wingspan to make sure that everything's getting shuffled properly and we're getting the, you know, I don't know. And then the Oceania came out and Miguel was like, we just got to get it. It'll change up the game. And, you know, we had a good time with it. It's been played once since we picked up the Oceania expansion. So it's not something I would recommend unless maybe it's a family thing that you guys love, like playing, you know what I mean? Like that's what I would recommend getting the Oceania expansion done. Like if it's coming to your table enough. I was hoping it was going to bring it back to the table. Like the expansions for Seven Wonders Duels is awesome. And it brings it back to the table for us because we weren't playing Seven Wonders Duel for a while until we picked up Agora and Pantheon. And now it's like, oh, I want to play this more, you know?
Mhm.
And that's what an expansion should do.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have the expansion. I have the European and Oceania expansions, but the problem is I sleeved all of the base game.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't really want to sleeve all of the new cards, and so if half of the cards are sleeved and half of them aren't, I'm not gonna mix them together. So I got to do something there, like unsleeve all of the base game cards or something.
Will they even all fit if you sleeve them all? Like, I know we were kind of pushing the limit with the European expansion. Like, with the new one, like, will they all fit?
I don't know. Definitely not in the base game box. They would have to stay in their respective lanes.
Yeah, we ended up getting rid of the card holder. But we don't have sleeved cards. They're not sleeved for us. But we ended up getting rid of the card holder because we don't have enough real estate. Because we're in like a small apartment here in Seattle. So like we needed, I try if possible to get my expansions into one box. And yeah, so we just got rid of the containers, put it all in plastic bags, got it in there, and it's bulging. Definitely a bit. But I will say you can't beat those player aid cards on Wingspan. It's just so easy when like you're drinking with a new group of friends, they want to play a game. Oh, look, here, this is going to walk you through your first 5 moves. It's going to make it so much easier. I just love that about the game.
Oh, the game's great. It's still not on top. You can't convince me right now to put it back on top, but it's still great.
Nice. So I want to pivot to some TikTok related questions, if that's okay.
Heck yeah.
All right, let's see. I had some written out here. Where should I start? I guess, what is your process for creating content? Like, is it more so you have an idea and you just pick up your phone and shoot it right then and there? Or, because I feel like personally, like when I do like my tutorials, I have the whole like I write out a script and then I record a voiceover, so it's very involved.
Yeah, so I think for more of my comedic TikToks, it is like just dumb shit that comes to my head. So I have like, I save every sound that I think is funny or like relatable, or I just like my library of saved sounds is extensive. It is very extensive. Like, and as I like wake up in the morning or I'm in the shower and I like laugh at myself and the stupid jokes that come into my head, like the one today about me dancing in Arathi Basin.
That was hilarious. Oh my God.
I was literally laughing at myself in tears and I couldn't get out the explanation and I run everything by Todd too, because he's like kind of my center where I'm like, is this even funny or is this me being stupid? And for the most part, he's like, no, it's pretty funny. Or he looks at me, he's like, why'd you even think of that? Like, and I could not get the words out to describe what I wanted to do. It was just me in the kitchen and I just gotten out of the shower because I thought of it in the shower in a towel showing these dance moves. And I'm like, like we're a blacksmith and it's funny. And he's like, what? Like, how did we even come to this conclusion? So that's how those go for the most part. But when I do like my 30-second walkthrough, like I will film it all the night before and I'll splice it together in Splice and I will sit on it and I'll think about how I want to like accurately describe this game. Like I try not to be too hasty. I did that in the beginning where I was banging out the videos right after playing. And I realized like I wasn't being concise enough with my explanations of the game, or I'll be like, oh, I should have said something different. Like that was dumb. Like I didn't like that. So I will sit over like night and like write down like, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'll put that into it. But for the most part, outside of like my formal like board game overviews, it's really just like the dumb stuff. And it's usually me drunk. And I have a whiteboard on my fridge that I'll write down ideas. And you can tell when I've had a few too many because it's like going upwards. And my teen will be like, what does that even mean? I'm like, you'll see. I'm going to create a masterpiece. And it's usually the dumbest ones that do the best. Like, it's awful. I don't know why we think of these things. Or if I'm like at a loss, like I'll look at Todd and go, listen to the sound. What does it make you think of? And he'll go XYZ. And I'll be like, done. Done. So I attribute a lot of my stupid dumb things to him because he's just as stupid and dumb as me.
Is he on TikTok too? Like, does he use TikTok?
No, refuses. And then I show him like videos. I'm like, I want to do something like this. And he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, you're a loser. Like, get on TikTok. And he's like, no, like you're on it. I don't need to be on it.
Same. I show Phil like everything too, but sometimes, well, not sometimes, most of the time, there's context behind a sound. So I have to think, okay, this is the context. Okay, you got it. You understand it. This is me.
Yeah. I try, and I sometimes draw diagrams for him when I'm trying to explain things. Yeah, but he's not on there. Refuses. Outright refuse, which is fine. Like, stay away. He's on Instagram. Yeah. He likes to go creep the comments there, but TikTok, he's not about that life.
Nice. What about you, Kasey?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, the funny stuff is if it comes to me, I have so many saved sounds. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I get annoyed with myself and I'm like, where the fuck is this sound? Like trying to find it. And the worst is when it's an older sound and it says internet is unstable. Has that ever happened to you guys?
Yeah. So I found a trick for that one.
Oh, really? Do you know how to work that?
I do. And I was getting so frustrated the other day to the point where I'm a crier. So let me just preface this by saying I'm a crier. Like, I will cry. Like, I was watching How to Train Your Dragon for the 500th time the other day and I still cried. So I had filmed this whole thing outside of TikTok because it was going to be a masterpiece. I had the perfect sound and I went and uploaded it and the sound was unstable and I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, this is all for a lost cause. I just spent an hour and a half doing this and I can't. And I was like searching for like a peripheral version of that sound, but I knew I wanted the original. I'm like,
yeah.
No. So I'm here crying and I'm like Google searching how to fix this. And it's all like some like BS YouTube videos on how to fix your unstable connection. I'm like, this is not working. So it was a lot of sweat and tears. But if you uninstall the app and re-upload it, it's because it has something to do with your IP address and the song not being available in your area anymore. So if you delete the app and reinstall it, and I'm not one to save a bunch of drafts, so I wasn't too concerned about it. I know if you delete your app, it gets rid of all your drafts. It fixed all the sounds. So now whenever that comes up, I just delete the app and reinstall it.
Wow. That's really good to know. I'm actually really glad you told me that. I don't have a ton of my drafts are like overnight. Like I don't see a bunch of stuff. It's if it wasn't good, it's not good.
It probably shouldn't come out.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so good to know because that has happened to me more often than I like with the comedy stuff. Because like if it's just like a top 10 list, I'll find a new song. You know what I mean? Like, or if it's a list or if it's like showcasing a board game, like I don't really care that much. I'll find something different. But like with the sounds, you're trying to do something very specific to something. And when you get that unstable, it's very annoying. But yeah, those like I get them late at night. Like I'll be going to bed and I guess because I watch my TikTok way too much late at night. And so I'll see something and I'm just like, okay, this is it. And then I'm usually up at like, because I work so much, I get up at like 4:30 in the morning to film some TikToks. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, because I've tried doing them when I get home, but then, we want to play a game and I never want to be the person that's talking about playing games, but not playing games. So like, it's very important to me that like I'm constantly playing the money. Like I've invested so much money into our games that like I'm spending that time as well. And also like, not only do I love it, it's like almost become such a passion of mine to like research. Like I'm just like so interested in mechanics. I'm so interested in designers. Like I was into games, but not until the pandemic did I start watching board game content on YouTube. So I would go into a game store and just be like, oh, I love the look of this. I love the theme of this. Miguel, look it up. Does it have a good review? You know what I mean? Like that's what we would do. And then I got into YouTube creators and it was honestly Before You Play, Monique and Naveen.
Love them.
She's so freaking awesome. Like I was just like, oh, she's really cool. And she's fucking good at gaming. Like, and she knows her stuff. And I just like, it was my first time like seeing that, on YouTube. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started watching them and Miguel loves to rub in my face Beyond the Sun because he wanted Beyond the Sun so bad. And I saw I don't know if you've seen Beyond the Sun. It's ugly. Like it's not a pretty box. It's a tech tree. Like there's nothing pretty about it. And I'm like, we got enough space games. Like we got enough space games. Like we don't need
Do you though? Hold on. Do you though?
No. I was just like kind of blowing it off, and it wasn't cheap either. Like I think it's like definitely above 65. It's like a $70 game. And so I was just not interested. And then Before You Play featured it on their channel, and I call Miguel, I just bought Beyond the Sun. It was hilarious. And so we've definitely had a few of those moments where like I'm definitely the type that when I find it myself, I'm way more passionate about it than if Miguel tells me about it. Poor Miguel. I love him to death, but that's a struggle. But yeah, it's very similar also with back to the TikTok thing. I'm sorry, I went off.
It's okay.
If I'm doing a shoot for a video, I tend to, like, if I'm doing an overview, I don't do those very often anymore, just because I think you guys who do those overviews do such a great job. And I just don't know if TikTok is the right place to do an overview of the heavy Euro games. I just don't think, like, I would never recommend getting a Lacerda game to the normal person. Like my cousin, who likes games, never recommend that. You know what I mean? So I've been doing the playthroughs, which are really nice because it's less work for me because I can just set up a camera and film myself, and Miguel puts on the clock for me like a cinch, and we time it. And it's really therapeutic because it forces me to not have my phone during a game, which I don't know about you guys. You're probably better than me, but I can be a little bad when Miguel's like taking his time on a turn, and I'll just like grab my phone and not pay attention to what he's doing. And that's no way to play a game sometimes. So
I need to check my phone at the door.
Yeah, it's like tough. Like I'll check like my TikTok notifications too. I'll just reply to some comments, just because like Phil likes, like, he actually thinks about the stuff that he's doing in a game. I'm impatient, like, with myself. I'm just like, I don't want to think about, like, what, I don't strategize that well. So I'll just play this and that'll be fine. And then I wonder why I lose, like, 80% of the games that we play. But I think that's, like, just backtracking to that one question I had about differing, like, game tastes. For the most part, we have the same taste, but he's into a lot more LCGs. Like he used to play Legend of the Five Rings and Netrunner competitively. So he has like that strategic brain. I can't.
I was never into living card games. It's something I would like to play eventually. But as far as like the strategic, like I love a good game that requires you to like think like 10 turns in advance. Like, oh, what am I doing now? How is that going to impact me in a half hour?
I like thinking about that too, but then I get so upset when things don't turn out the way that I thought that it would.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it depends too on the Euro, because there's a few Euros where there's such little player interaction that you can freaking plan that whole game, right? And like very limited, like get interrupted. But yeah, I definitely like, I think my skills as a scientist come in when I start planning like all of my routes. And that's where I think that's why I love those heavy Euros, because they're just like the way my brain functions versus like strategy, like where you're doing very like intricate moving around or area control. I struggle a little bit more in that area. Like it's a simple game, but I don't know if you guys have played Hive.
Yes. Oh no, I haven't played Hive, but I'm
you know what yeah. So it's like chess, and they're insects, and each insect has a different power, and it's 1v1. I'm terrible at that game. I can't freaking win. Like I hate that game because it's like in our collection. Miguel will never get rid of it. But like it's definitely a game that Miguel's just really good at. Those like chess, I could never beat Miguel in chess. You know what I mean? Like those types of games. We just actually bought War Chest. Which I know is in chess. It's got some similarities, but we picked it up because of your recommendation, Raina. So that's going to be
nice.
Soon.
I'm excited for y'all. We literally, when we first got War Chest, that's all we played for like a week. It's super, like the back building aspect is super cool.
Very
definitely
cool.
really tight. Yeah.
Todd calls me out all the time when we play games. He's like, "It's because you're a scientist." I'm like, fine. It's funny that you say that because you're a scientist. I'm like,
it's
fine.
All right. If it's sure.
If that's what gets you through the day. But you are right, Kasey, with the heavy Euro games and TikTok. They do not go over well ever. Like, so when I first started making TikToks, I was like, I'm going to play like Clans of Caledonia. Then I'm going to play all these crazy games. And then who was I watching? Oh, it was when TikTok board games started coming like into the scene. And he did one on like, I think it was like 5-Minute Dungeon or something. And it like blew up. And I was like, what do I have to do to be like him? Like, what? And I noticed like definitely the market and the audience on TikTok is very, very different. And I play a lot of these heavy Euro games still, but I won't always make a video on them because I'm like, no one's going to care. Like we have this crazy space game that we have to play called Exodus. It's a co-op space game. It feels a lot like Battlestar Galactica. It is awesome. If I made a video about that, people would be like, what the frick is this? Like, no, like it's cool to look at, but it's not, unless you like know board games, it's not that cool to look at.
Yeah.
But I do find like I do cherry pick the videos I make. So when someone makes a comment like, oh, you don't play heavy games, like, I do too. Don't you tell me I don't play heavy games. So, well, you never like I'm like, I do play heavy games. Do not call me out like that. So it is hard to like find that balance between like what you want to show your audience and what they will receive well versus like what you actually enjoy playing. I'm not saying I don't enjoy playing all these lighter games because I love a good light day, but I love playing a good heavy game. It's just not for everyone.
Yeah, it's something I definitely like in the beginning. I started changing my material because, like, for example, I had my first video that ever blew up was like Odin's Ravens, which is super fast 2-player game. And, you know, I love it. Like, it's a fun, like, warm up. Miguel's not as big of a fan. And I swear, this is what he said. I was like, Odin's Ravens has like, I don't know, 90,000 views. And he's like, for Odin's Ravens? Like, what the like, are you serious? And it's like, I get it though, because if I was 18, if I was 19, like, I'm not going to be spending $130 on a game. I don't have that kind of money. 3 years ago, I wasn't willing to spend that kind of money on a game. So like, I totally understand that. And so I went and I bought the 5-Minute Dungeon, and that one blew up. And
I saw that.
Yeah. And I
messaged you. I was like, you did it. My exact words, I've been trying to get a game video to blow up for months, and you did it. Like, congratulations. And I was like, damn, I got to start playing. And the next day I made a video on zombie dice, and it blew up. And I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And then like that other one you did with those really cool looking characters, that one was huge.
Condyle Cove.
Yes.
It's such a simplistic game. It was cheap. It was cool to look at. I like it. I don't know if I will get it to the table all that much, but the whole look and price tag of it was like the perfect game for TikTok, and it exploded. It has like 500,000 views on it. And I was like, how? And I'm over here like, I spend hours editing the Kanban video for it to be perfect, and it's like 5 views. I'm like, like what?
Yeah. No, it's the truth. And so like, I know I went through a period where like I was like, you know what, I can try and do this thing where I'm going out and buying games that aren't just things that I play and stuff like that to try and grow my following. But like, it just wasn't something that we have. Like, we don't have kids, so it's not something we typically buy, right? Like, I totally understand families when you're like, what you want to play like a multitude of games, right? So then we just kind of, I don't know, like I just kind of pivoted and was just like, you know, I need to just get back. It was actually, I saw this YouTuber talking about not getting burnt out with content creation. And I think it's really important for us 3 ladies because we all work a lot. And it's hard, right? Like, you have this full-time, you're a student, Raina, with nursing school, but that's like a very accelerated program. And Danielle, you're a scientist, and same here. And it's like, you have all of these things that you have to do. So I don't want to spend all this time on something that I was doing just to get out, right? Like, I did it for the purpose for it to blow up, and then it doesn't blow up, right? So now I think I'm much more in the state where I'm like, I'm going to produce content that makes me very happy to make. And I am going to do it in a way that the few people who I know like my content are also like, it's not totally selfish, right? Like people, I think some people like it, right? And then go from there. And I will say it helped a lot. It helped so much my psyche, because now when a video bombs, I'm like, that's fire.
Whatever.
You know?
Y'all don't know what you're missing out on.
That shit's awesome. Like you just missed out. But no, I'm just kidding. But like it's helped a lot with doing that kind of thing.
I went through the same phase, and it was really hard to get over that hump because all you do is like you want to be successful, and then you start judging yourself on like those numbers. But like you said, you do have a following of people that are there for your content because they have the same interests as you, and they have the same like, you know, desires for games. So when you start putting out the content like the 5-minute dungeon where it feels a little bit off, you're like, this really isn't me, but I'm doing it because I want to be successful. That's when you start getting like comments from your viewers like, oh, that's weird. Like, oh, that's weird. But I do notice now that I've made a Discord, like we do have a community of people that enjoy the content that we put out, and they're here to share the opinions with us. And I love it. And just having that peace of mind has definitely helped in the past couple of months, especially like you said, with work. It gets nuts. It gets nuts to try and balance all of it at once and to satisfy this weird psyche that you have. So I do me now. I do me. Like, especially with my like comedic content, it's definitely gone like full Danielle. Like there's no holding back anymore. Like there was some holding back for a while. I'm like, I don't think people are ready for this shit. But the fact that I got up at a crop top today and decided to dance on a rathy basin or like pour beer, slamming beers at the taverns of Tiefenthal, like that is me. Like, and I've noticed a difference in my demeanor, especially in the past 2 months. And even my husband has said something. He's like, you're a different person. Like before you were like stressed, like I was like scheduling things like we got to do this, we got to do this. It felt gross. It felt gross for a while. Like we're in a good place. I feel like we're all in a good place now.
No, for sure, definitely. Yeah. What about you, Raina? How do you schedule all of your TikToks?
I feel like I don't plan things aside from content that is sponsored because I'm very like I don't know how to explain. I'm a big feel person. So like if I feel like making content about this game, then I'll do it. But if I don't, then I won't. And it's a bit tough because when I gain followers, like it's usually because like one video goes super viral and I gain like 20,000 followers in one day, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
And, yeah. And to be completely honest, it's like you ride on that high for a bit and it kind of sucks after, things start slowing down a lot. And that was something that I struggled with for a bit. And then I felt like I had to keep on pumping out that same kind of content to like keep on riding that wave, but it's just not feasible, especially on TikTok. And so I've learned to just put out, I do balance it out because I do want to give my audience the content that they kind of signed up for when they started following me. So I'll like do like a beginner game and then I'll throw in like some stuff for me that I want to show and then just kind of keep us both happy.
No, but it makes sense, Raina, because I mean, you're 1-minute board games. Like you're giving tutorials, like that's like your theme and everything. And I think like for me, when I started it, I was primarily a comedy channel. Like I didn't do any overviews when I first started. And then I started doing a couple. And then I was like, okay. And then I moved away from that. And now I'm just trying to like, if it's a really cool game, like that I really like, that I think would fit the TikTok community, I'll do an overview for it. But otherwise, I'm going to show you a playthrough because I know there's certain people out there that do enjoy like heavier games and might want to see like, oh, what's a quick overview? How long is this going to take me to set up and break down, And then I think also like, getting on Twitter, I wasn't on Twitter and Instagram until January. So like
same.
Like,
Twitter was a game changer.
Completely.
Yeah, just like in terms, like not even in terms, just in terms of getting my content out there, but I've just met so many amazing people on Twitter. It's been crazy.
Completely different on there. And I'm happy that you guys are both saying these things because they're things that I've iterated to myself like all the time. And so hearing both of you guys say these things makes me feel so much better. I'm like, and I hadn't been on Twitter in probably like 6 years. And to go back onto my Twitter, it was like an awkward time capsule of my past. I was like, ugh, because I used to be like into cosplay. Like I was a completely different Danielle. So when I tried to like get back in the Twitter game, I was like, oh, I hope people like still don't follow me over here. This is freaking weird. But just the community there is completely different. And I feel like I'm now gearing a lot of my TikTok content for Twitter. I'm like, what would my Twitter people like? Because my shit does great over there. Like, and it's awesome. And the conversations I've had, even though the conversations I've had on TikTok have been incredible, I have not really met a bad egg yet. Knock on wood. And I know there's horror stories But honestly, the people I have spoken to and met along the way on TikTok have been out of control awesome.
Mhm.
But the Twitter community, I post something on there and people are gassing me up left and right. And I'm like, I'm staying for dinner, baby. Like, this is great.
TikTok needs a retweet function. Like TikTok needs a retweet because
Yes.
there's something about that retweet where like it's very easy for a Twitter person to do, right? Like, oh, let me retweet this and then boom, my whole time following. And it's really nice. Like it feels good. So and then on top of that, you have like really heavy board gamers on Twitter where you have people who like I feel sometimes like I'm like, oh my goodness, these guys have been gaming for like years. And I'm like, okay. So it's interesting. But that I think I also saw like someone talking about like you should always try and recycle your content. Like it'll make you feel better about yourself. So it's nice. Like, yeah, because then all that work you do and that goes into it. Because sometimes a comedy video can be 8 seconds, but when you're doing multiple cuts, you know, on a cell phone, I know. It's like trying to lip sync it.
Yeah, and I don't know, does Miguel do most of your editing for you?
No, he does the really good stuff. So like you can always tell if there's special effects. So if I have like a Millennium Falcon flying through my screen, Miguel has taken that in. And 9 times out of 10, I asked him to do something very simple. And then he spends 10 hours.
Full creative liberties.
Oh my God. And then I can't change it because he's spent so much time. And I'm like, but it's always perfect. Also, like my really funky stuff. Like I have a Gloomhaven commercial from the 90s.
I like that one. That was good.
I do too.
Miguel directed, scripted, and edited that one. Yes.
Miguel's a real MVP here.
Yeah, seriously. But the you know, the comedy ones, like for example, one of my famous, the Kakiguri one, where I'm doing the different personalities. I told Miguel about that, and he's like, "That's lame. I don't get that. Who are these cringy girls you were showing me right now?" Because I'm like showing him the videos of all the girls in the mirror doing their faces and everything. He's like, "What is this?"
What are you
and
doing?
So he was like taking a nap on the couch, and I just started filming it, and then he saw it when it was done, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And I'm like.
You got to trust the process.
Yeah. So there's I think the ones that are really heavy on the TikTok trends, those are always mine because he has a TikTok, Johnny Deathhawk. He posts a couple videos of our cat. Yeah. Like he has like 3 videos that are terrible of our cat. But like he has it. So, but he's never on it. Like he goes on to support me because he's such a sweetheart to be like, let me go like my baby's video, or because he loves the way he directed something and wants to watch it. He's played that Gloomhaven commercial for himself. I don't know how many times. Like, it's hilarious. But yeah, so that's when you can tell if there's like heavy editing. That's Miguel's work. Like he's taken something that I want to do. And then obviously with our role, like the 4 of us, when we got together, Wusong and Doug and everybody, that was all Miguel. He did such a great job with that.
Yeah, that video was fire.
Yeah, so much fun.
Like videos like that where there's like a lot of cuts, like it looks short, but it's like, you know, you're hopping around, you're changing like outfits and stuff. And then like you're like on your couch, on your bed, just like editing everything on your small iPhone. With your fingers. Yeah. And it's like, shit, I gotta edit the closed captions and such a process.
Yeah, I'm really hoping TikTok does the closed captioning. I feel like there's enough support from people that really want them to add the closed captioning because I think that's honestly the biggest time suck for me. Like if I make my video in TikTok, I can't use that other app to do closed captioning for me. So.
Yeah. That's why I don't make my videos like on TikTok anymore because then I have to type out my captions. And I've been there, done that, do not want to go back.
I got like carpal tunnel from that shit. I can't do it anymore. I bought the app so fast. I spent $10 on the closed caption app. So
literally I think I have the same app that you do, and I did spend the money for it. Worth it.
I'm so cheap. I downloaded Splice, and then it's like, you got to pay now. And I'm like, oh, delete.
Oh, I paid for that. It has saved me so much time. Those 2 apps, there is I would have given them hundreds of dollars at this point with the amount of time it has saved me. And thumbs, I trimmed my thumbnails so I could get better at typing quicker. that was the point I was at. And I was like, I need to do something about this. Okay. This needs to end here.
Yeah. For the most part, I think the only reason I like sometimes the app is the sound syncing, like cutting it so you can get your lip sync. I do a lot more lip syncing, like to actual, like I tend to like gravitate towards those. So like getting it perfect is really nice. Like I hate it when sometimes when I try to reuse it, I have a few videos I can't even reuse because I don't have the original footage. And if I try and put it in Instagram, it's delayed for some reason.
Oh,
Instagram's a turd for that.
I know. I'm just like, now I just look. And then the 30 seconds versus the minute, like for the.
I know.
That's why my board game review went from a minute to 30 seconds. So it would fit in the reels. I got so sick of like two-parting it in Instagram. I was like, whatever.
I know.
We'll
it's just like, now. Yeah, because when you have content that's like 45 seconds, well, it's like, well, what do? I can't post it in the reels, but then I have to like go inside another editing app and add like 15 seconds of credits or something.
Yeah.
That's my chihuahua. I'm so sorry, Johnny.
It's okay.
He's living his best life right now. He knows what's up. He's like, you either need to feed me or pet me or something.
Miguel, can you grab Johnny? Miguel's getting him. Our neighbors are like walking by, so he's like going nuts. He's a little
He's like on attack mode.
Seriously.
Well, I think on that note, we're coming up on 2 hours, which is pretty crazy. I does not feel like we've been talking for 2 hours.
I could chat forever. I could seriously talk to you guys all night long. Like, it is wonderful. It is wonderful just sitting here and, you know, sharing interests with you guys. And we've never met, and we just spoke for almost 2 hours. Like, we've known each other forever, and this is wonderful. So thank you, Raina, for having us.
Yeah, seriously. I feel that sense of camaraderie with y'all. I've always have. So it's nice.
Yeah, I definitely feel this. I feel like I've known y'all for like a long time.
Yeah, I was like, we're biffs. That's how it is. Little iffy ands or buts about it.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for joining me. I do want to end on some sort of note. If let's see, what is a game that you would like to get to the table soon?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Mechs versus Minions.
Nice.
It was my white whale, not even white whale, a game that I couldn't find. Then I found it, bought it, super pumped, been pumped. And it hasn't moved from the shelf. So I need to play it. It like I opened it and there was so much excitement and I was like, this is happening. And then I put the box back and it hasn't moved since. So that game soon.
It's the phases, right? Of getting a big box game. Like that always happens. For me, I'm going to say The Search for Planet X. We just got that. We have been waiting for that for 2 months. So I'm so stoked that we got that in. Yeah, apparently, just real quick, the ship that had all the shipping containers, it capsized and a bunch of people went overboard and everyone was okay, but the ship had to turn around and go back, and then they had to send a new ship, and then because of COVID it was waiting to be unloaded for 3 weeks in the dock.
Oh, jeez.
I know. It was absolutely insane. And we got this email being like, we're so sorry. Their men went overboard and almost drowned. I'm like, it's okay. Don't worry.
They're like, we'll take the time you need. We'll get this game next year. It's fine.
Seriously. So I'm so excited that, so many people made sure we got this game. So I cannot wait to play it.
That's awesome. I've heard great things about it.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me, I think obviously it has to be Lisboa. Excited.
Heck yeah.
I am excited. I got to start learning it though.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you everyone in our chat who has been tuning in. And who knows? We'll see you next time, maybe.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.